Yo, it's your boy Sin. I think it's time we talk about what's happening up here. Not my noggin. What's happening in Utah? 2023 All-Star Game. The All-Star starters have been announced. For the East, we got Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and Giannis Antetokounmpo as the captain. And then for the West Pool, we got Luka Doncic, Zion Williamson, Stephen Curry, Nikola Jokic, and of course, probably for the fifth time in a row, All-Star captain LeBron James. So, of course, the first thing on everybody's mind, who got snubbed? And I'm sure everybody pretty much has the same opinion. The East side, it has to be Joel Embiid. We talking about probably top 3 center in the league right now, top 2. Some people might say not 2, right? Leading the league in scoring right now at 33.4 points per game, 9.8 rebounds right now, 4.1 assists. And then as far as like his shooting splits, shooting 53.2% this year, barely missed any games, had a few little hiccups. And then not to mention, as far as his team this year, I mean, Jesus, the 76ers have just been pretty unstoppable. They are currently sitting 2.5 games behind the Boston Celtics, which is pretty insane just to kind of think about where this team's direction has been these past few seasons and how Joel Embiid has flourished into this unstoppable big man. There's no debating that you cannot stop him in the paint. He's one of the best players as far as post-up offense and pick-and-roll offense. He's elevated his mid-range game, not hesitating to be able to take that jump shot. And honestly, and I will say, if he had, it's been an argument, if he had an actual agent, he would probably be more in the media conversation as far as a MVP candidate. And that's partially why I do believe that he did get snubbed. Just because you don't see Joel Embiid in the media. I mean, earlier in the season, he had nearly a 60-point game against Utah. Just being such a dominant force for the 76ers offense and on defense. I know a lot of people talk about him playing this drop coverage on defense, on pick and rolls, blah, blah, blah. But none of that matters because that first half is all him. That first quarter is all him. I mean, averaging 10 free throws made per game on 11 attempts. I mean, there's just no question. I'm sure he's getting fouled about 7 times per game, not just on, of course, like I said, shooting. So it's kind of insane that he's not in that conversation, even having about 1.7 blocks, 1.1 steals. He's really there on both sides of the ball. I do think Joel Embiid did get snubbed as a starter this year, but, what can you say? I mean, in the next question you ask, who would he replace? In my opinion, I think Kyrie Irving should get replaced. You move Donovan Mitchell up to that 1 guard spot, Jason Tatum up to this 2 guard spot, and so on and so forth. Kevin Durant 3, Giannis 4, Joel Embiid 5. And why? I mean, Kyrie Irving, he's been balling out so far, especially with KD being out. But when you consider that mid-season slump that he was in when he ended up getting taken out due to the Matrix, and then, they talking about him, they taking his Bugatti. Pretty much that I feel like that threw him off. As far as consistently, he was slowly trying to get back into a rhythm. Not that it means that he isn't an all-star. I just think he isn't an all-star starter this season. But nonetheless, he is still a good choice. I know a lot of people was talking about between him and Jaylen Brown. I mean, Jaylen Brown is good. I love Jaylen Brown. He's actually one of my favorite players. But I do think Kyrie would deserve it a little bit more over him, just because Jaylen Brown is a little bit of a roller coaster. He'll have one game where, if any of y'all know how his rotation is, he'll probably play that full first quarter. He could drop 16 in the full first quarter. He can drop 5 points in the first quarter, and go fucking 2 for 12. So his roller coaster is a little crazy, But nonetheless, I also still think that he should also be honored to be an all-star as well this season. Now, going on to the West. Who was snubbed from the West? Of course, I'm just going to have to go to my favorite number one point guard. He's been my number one point guard since pretty much as he was on the Clippers. I know that's kind of sound weird, but I saw the potential when he was out there. I know y'all probably think I'm sounding like LeBron James right now, but Shaquille Gargantuous Alexander. Come on, man. It's just nonetheless, he's been absolutely crazy this year. And I could just get into the logistics for you, right? Shaquille Gargantuous Alexander is averaging 30.9 points per game so far this season on 5.6 assists, 4.6 rebounds, an amazing 51% from the field. Not to mention, you can tackle on him shooting 36.6% from the three-point line, which he is not known to do. And he also has been there on the defensive side of the ball, 1.1 blocks, 1.7 steals, making him one of the top two-way guards, in my opinion, in the league right now. I do think that if Oklahoma City can begin to muster up some wins and get into that 1-6 playoff seeds, he should be a good candidate for the MVP conversation. Just the way he carries himself on the court is just tremendous. He's one of the best iso ball players in the league. The top players as far as getting to the free throw line and being fouled. If anybody has seen him, the only way you can stop him is if you do not foul him, which is almost next to impossible. His craftiness around the rim, way to absorb contact. I mean, I don't know if y'all seen that meme, Jimmy Butler. The meme of Jimmy Butler in the finals when he was tired. That's literally how Shea looks every night, giving his all. And it's just interesting to see how even with game planning for him, you just really can't stop him. I mean, the best team that I've seen be able to limit him is the Memphis Grizzlies. The Cavaliers did it that first time that they met up with him. And as we just saw last night, he torched them. He had like 35 points. I remember I blinked. I saw he had like 4 points in the first quarter. Blinked, man had like fucking 14. So that was clearly him just getting to the free throw line. He most definitely deserves to be a starter this season, just because of the consistency that he has brought to the table. And nonetheless, I mean, he's pulling games out of his ass to win for this Oklahoma City roster. I mean, teams that you would think that he would blow out, there's almost every game that this is just a clutch situation for them. He carrying his team at 24 years old, and not to mention, he doesn't sit out many games. He does not sit out many games. The only way he gonna sit out some games is if Oklahoma tell him, we on the Wamba Jama sweepstakes, so you just gonna have to sit out tonight. But other than that, he really don't sit out. As far as who he replaced, I think that Stephen Curry will have to come out of here. I definitely think that Steph will have to come out of here. Now, Steph, by far, is not playing bad. He's averaging, a pretty typical Steph year on that 30-point line. But he's also been battling a couple injuries. And not to mention, the Warriors aren't really sitting that pretty as far as seeding right now in the West. The Oklahoma City Thunder are about 2.5 games behind them. So, I mean, come on. With the lack of depth that OKC has. Okay, let me correct myself. The lack of depth as far as the eye test that Oklahoma City has, I think that he should be a starter over Steph. And it's, like I said, mainly just because of the way he's carrying his team. Harry hasn't really missed that many games compared to Steph Curry, and he just deserves it. He deserves it. One sleeper pick that I do think it deserves to be a starter as well, Domantas Sabonis. Domantas Sabonis deserves it. I think Domantas Sabonis deserves to be a starter over Zion this year. I mean, I don't even understand the hype around Zion being an MVP candidate. Of course, yes, when he did play, he was a very dominant force. You cannot stop him. But I think that was just the media trying to throw him into the spotlight just because the past 2-3 years since he's been in the league, we have not been able to do that. So to be able to market him gives them a lot of, ability to try to make some money or something. But Zion just ain't there for me right now. I mean, dude has only played like 29 games this year. That's I think that's like the most he's played so far in the season. No, I'm joking. He played like 40, like in his second year or some shit like that. But still, I'm not behind him just yet. I do believe that he should be an all-star just because he has displayed dominance in those 29 games and that small sample size that we have. But Sabonis is playing like every game that he can. Every game that he's wheeling the Sacramento team on his back with added De'Aaron Fox in the fourth quarter. The way he's able to set up people on Sacramento, it's almost insane. He's still trying to figure out that knack for scoring, putting that footwork behind himself, grasping the ball handle just a little better, but he's there. Like, he's right there. I love what Mike Brown is doing, using him with the handoff offense scheme. The freelance offense for the Sacramento Kings is beautiful. It pretty much works 100% in his favor. Sabonis has been killing it on the glass. I mean, I can't count how many times he's had a 12, 14 rebound double-double, flirting with a couple triple-doubles, at least being a consistent 7-8 assist guy night in, night out, bringing and wheeling in the Sacramento fans to light the beam every single night. He definitely deserves it. He deserves it. But, you got to remember, the all-star starters are fan voted. You got to remember that it's a fan voted thing. And that brings the next question: should fan voting be reconsidered? An event like the All-Star game, you do want to allow some type of fan interaction and input to make sure that it matters, because the All-Star weekend, as much as it is an accolade to the players and honoring them for, their performance, it's really for the fans, because when you think about it, that's how the league they make that guap to get all of the stars and, the celebrities, et cetera, to go out to Utah this year, or, Chicago the one year, Charlotte the other year, New York one of those years, to go out there. They bring so much commerce to these specific cities. It's a huge thing that really, like I said, is involved for the fans. So they try to make it somewhat a fan-made interaction. Just because, of course, I mean, these starters, they don't 100% matter, do they? They don't. But, when you look at this 10 years down the line, you're really not going to talk about who started in the All-Star game. You're going to talk about who was an All-Star. But in a certain sense, being a starter, in any sense, does give, say one of these players that added boost of confidence. These players that added boost of confidence and sense of appreciation that the league has to offer for what they're doing. Because you got to remember, these athletes are essentially entertainers. I know a lot of people get pissed off when, XYZ has to sit out for load management, et cetera, et cetera. These people are entertainers. You just got to remember that. You don't want to injure these owners don't want to injure their money. That's just my best way of putting it. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't think that fan voting should be reconsidered, though I understand. Once again, we got to remember the starters don't really matter at the end of the day, but it is always something that's nice to talk about. Bring a sense of community in the NBA, which we have not had in a little bit of a while, just because the 2010s was just LeBron and Steph, and now it kind of looks like we're getting a good sense of parity. We're getting a good sense of talent amongst the entire league. There's really no clear-cut favorites on who's going to win or take each side of each conference. So, I'm pretty excited. I'm excited to see what the All-Star game has to offer this year. Hopefully it's a little bit more competitive. But once again, like I said, these entertainers, they're not going to explode their body for a game and a trophy that don't mean much more to them. But congratulations to all those who are starters. Congratulations to all those that will be on the All-Star list. I don't think they have released the entire list, but of course I will make a video about that when that drops too. But of course, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Who do you feel should be started? Who was snubbed? Do you agree with me on Joel Embiid, Shai Gilgeous Gargantuous Alexander? Do you agree with me with Domantas Sabonis? Do you think that fan voting should be reconsidered? Once again, like, comment, subscribe. Help support a 5-5 Black business. I suck at YouTube outros. Stay righteous.